In this portion, we're going to add some gesture recognizers to the Smurf itself. So our view controller is still going to stay light. It's going to be a very simple view controller, but our Smurf is going to be more complex. So we want to be able to move our Smurf and make the Smurf disappear. So let's first make it disappear. So we're going to say minus void, and we're going to say quit your workout. So when the Smurf's ready to be done with the day, it's going to go ahead and quit the workout. So I'm going to go below where we had walk Smurf walk. And we're going to do quit your workout. On the quit your workout, basically you just remove yourself from the super view, and luckily there's a method for that. I'm going to say self space remove from super view, and that's it. We're done. Except for nothing calls this right now, and what we want to call it is a long press. So let's go up to here where we have our clipping view right before we add it to the, and we could actually add this after we added it to the subview, but I usually like to add everything to the clipping view, then add it to the subview. And what we needed to add to that clipping view is the ability to do a long press. So we're going to add a gesture recognizer, and in the past we just drag them from the storyboard. So swipe gestures we drag from the storyboard and all that, but with these we can't do that because these Smurfs don't exist yet. So we're going to do a UI long press gesture recognizer. I usually call these LP. And we're going to say the alloc and init. So UI long press gesturing alloc. And we have one init. This is simple, but we also have the target and the action. And you notice this is the exact same as our timer. So we have a selector, which is very useful. So we can actually call a method. So our target is ourself. And the action that this long press is going to fire is not walk Smurf walk, but it's going to be that quit your workout. So we need to do add selector, quit your workout. And I need to put a star there. So it's a UI long press gesture recognizer star. Now the reason it's complaining is that LP is not used yet. So let's add that to the clipping view. And to add a gesture recognizer to the clipping view is exactly how do you add a subview to a view. You do whatever the view is, so our clipping view, add gesture recognizer, and our gesture recognizer is the one we just created, the LP. And that's it. So what we basically did is we created a long press gesture recognizer that calls the quit your workout. So whenever someone presses for a long time on the Smurf, it's going to call this code down here. And then we added it to the clipping view. So if I run this, I get my Smurfs, those are normal. But now what we didn't have before is we couldn't long press on those and have them just go boom, disappear. Now the other thing we want to do is we want to click and drag. Right now they don't move around. Wherever you click is just where they're going to end up. So let's go ahead and fix that. So the first thing I usually do is I create the method first. So we need to have a method that actually pans the Smurf. So let's go up here, and this one requires feedback. So we got to know where the pan occurred. So this is very similar to our alpha wolf augmented reality where we were able to pan the wolf. So we need to know kind of where we're panning to. So we need to move around, and then the colon, it's going to take a UI pan gesture recognizer. So we're actually going to get our data. Now we could have put the UI long press to recognize how long it was pressed or something like that, but we really don't need that information. We're going to call this pan. So now we have this method called move around, and we need to implement it down below. I'm going to go to the very bottom and do a minus void, and we're going to say move around. It should autofill. And then right here we need to get the location of that pan. So we're going to say CG point new location equals pan translate in view. I'm going to say self.superView. So I don't want the location that we're panning inside the Smurf itself. We want the location of the outside world. And once I have that information, And you'll notice that's two completely different systems. Self.superview is the global, so your X and Y based on the entire iPad screen. Whereas if we just did our self, it would be based on the top of the Smurf's head down to its feet. So we're going to say self.center equals cg.make. And I'm going to say self.center.x plus new location .x. Self.center.y plus new location.y. And then the final thing we need is actually to reset our translation so we're not adding on to the previous translation. So I'm going to say pan set translation. And there's a handy little thing I just found out about with CG. So CG.make 00, you can do CG.0. It's a little handy deal. And it's going to be in self. Alright, so now we have this move around. And we can probably go ahead and go up here. So we're back in our init method. So we had that LP gesture recognizer. Let's do a UI pan gesture recognizer. So UI pan gesture recognizer star pan equals UI pan gesture recognizer alloc. So notice these gesture recognizers is the same as creating any instance of any object. It's always alloc init. So init with target, so self, and then our method is that method we just created. So I'll move around. Now you'll notice on this add selector, when the method doesn't have, so for example, quit your work out, that is basically there's no variables passed. Move around, there is a variable, and there's that little colon right there. So you notice if you have a variable in your method, it'll put that. And normally it'll finish that off for you. So last thing we got to do is add this pan to our clipping view. So clipping view, add gesture recognizer, pan, and that's it. So we have a long press gesture recognizer and a pan gesture recognizer on the clipping view. I run it. And we got some Smurfs, and we can move them around and move them however we want. And we can even make them disappear.